I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, October the 12th, Columbus Day, but the board is in fact open today, and a lot of people are not recognizing that. I guess discovering the new world is not as big a deal as what we thought it was. But brought to you in part by Vitalix. Get the blue tub. The feedlot starter tub is recommended for the first 21 days of calves getting to a new location. It encourages them to drink and eat, which is the main things you guys know about straightening up new cattle. But we had bullish crop reports last week. We talked about it all week, and then they come out on Friday, and we saw that they lowered the production of corn and beans 1% from the previous forecast, which was a month ago. But actually, the production compared to a year ago, corn is up 8% on the projections, and beans up 20%. So you'd think, man, that's going to be kind of bearish for grains. That's going to be good for cattle. Nope. These are all estimates, but still, that's what everybody goes by. But the number of acres were down for both corn and beans about 1%. And our usage is up, so they're expecting the stockpiles to be lower, so that's going to be a big deal. But I was looking at that report. One thing that was interesting, the most acres of corn are in Iowa, of course, but Illinois was second, and beans, Illinois was first and Iowa was second. So that kind of gives you an idea where all the grain is grown in this part of or in this country here. But it is dry. I tell you what, dry. But these guys are going through these crops and harvest like a buzzsaw. I mean, absolutely flying through them. But even though we've got record yields expected for both corn and beans, we've got a bullish report here right during harvest. And I tell you what, it's hard on the cattle market when we're also got these big numbers of spring-born calves hitting the market. We've got wide temperature swings. It's dry, so there are very few places to turn cattle out. Guys are having to sell calves early because they're going to have to start feeding their cows if they haven't already started. But it's bearish for feeder cattle right now. It's kind of hurting the market. But actually your yearlings, the few yearlings that are still out there, still selling well, but there's so many calves hitting the market right now. It's just pulling your feeder market down as a whole. But what's going on this week? If you guys watched me the end of last week, you know it, but the Ranchers for Trump rally in Fallon, Nevada at Nevada Livestock Marketing is happening on Wednesday. If you guys heard me, I'm going to be the auctioneer there. They've got like 500 head of cattle donated for this, and all of the money that's yielded from it goes to the Victory Campaign. And they've got a $100 a plate meal that happens before the speakers. I've told you that Devin Nunes and Donald Trump Jr. are going to be there at the sale barn, Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada. Telling you what, you got to get on. If you can't get there, I know a lot of you can't, but if you can't get there, you got to get on to dvauction.com. All this starts, the speakers start at 2 o'clock, and that'll be 4 o'clock Central Time, guys. But dvauction.com, you can also view and bid or donate money through DV Auction right there when the sale starts. But a lot of good cattle on there. I mean, not just a few of them. They're having to dispatch trucks. They're coming from 6 different states so far, and maybe more by sale time. But I tell you what, a big deal, and we're sure proud to be a part of it here at DV Auction, and especially me. But let's talk about the board for last week. October live cattle futures, Monday was up 65, Tuesday up 37, Wednesday up 97, Thursday down 47 cents, and Friday up 17, with your October live cattle ending the week at 109.87, up $1.70. And you said, well, you were talking about all that bearish stuff. That was all for feeder cattle, guys. Your fat cattle, your live cattle, they're done with feed. They don't need it anymore, so it hasn't hurt them. I'm sure it's pulled them down some, but it's hard to say when they're going in opposite direction, your fats and feeders. But December live cattle ended the week at 112.60, up $1.50. Feeder cattle for October, Monday was up 15, Tuesday down $1.92, Wednesday up 37, Thursday down 45 and Friday up 20 cents. But your feeder cattle for October ended the week at 138 and a quarter, down $1.65. November was down 435 for the week at 135.52. That's very disappointing, guys, for guys that were planning on selling feeders later in the fall or towards the end of the year. But you know, you look at the grains. December corn, Chicago Board of Trade ended the week at $3.95. You remember we rocked along all summer at about $3.10. Now we're knocking on $4 a bushel. November beans, $10.65 and a half. Wow, they've really come up. But your fat cattle trade through Thursday, they'd only sold 31,500. You think, why is that? Well, we've learned the last several weeks that good things come to those who wait. And so these cattle sellers have been waiting these packers out. There's not a big supply of market-ready cattle. There's a lot of cattle in the feedlot, a lot of cattle on feed, but the market-ready supply is right now lining up with those low numbers of placements that we had right after the worst of the COVID. And so they're needing cattle, and there's not that many plentiful supplies. The show lists that come out a week ago Monday were way lighter than they had been, and it'll be interesting to see what the show lists are this week. I don't take a lot of stock in them, but everybody else looks at them, so I guess you kind of have to notice them. But only 31,500 head of fat cattle were sold in the 5-area feeding region through Thursday, and so, but we did have a pretty good Friday. So we're going to end up having decent movement. I doubt we get to 100,000 in the 5-area feeding region, even though the numbers that we've seen likely are going to be bigger because there's some cattle that didn't get turned in. But you look through the week, through Thursday, 106 to 110 live steers and heifers with a weighted average through then at 107.59. Your dressed steers and heifers 169 to 170 with a weighted average on dressed steers at 169.29. But everything on Friday was higher. So we've gained like $6 now, or we are going into this week. Now we've gained $8 because those quotes by Friday were $2 higher. So in the last 4 weeks there, we've gained $8. Look at your sales on Friday. This is the latest sales, which weren't included in those weighted averages I gave you. Iowa sold another 9,000 confirmed from 104 to 110 live, but mostly 108. And then dress sales 169 to mostly 170. Nebraska, 23,200 head sold on Friday, and they couldn't have got them all. There's going to be a few more, but live sales in Nebraska, steers and heifers 107 to mostly 109, a lot of 108 in there, and then dress sales from 169 to mostly all 170. So that's $2 higher on the best part. But actually we're seeing a little bit of a premium in the Southern Plains. Who would have thought that here several weeks ago, as we thought that they had the heaviest cattle, but now your Southern Plains are actually as a whole selling higher than the Northern Plains. But Kansas sold 15,100 head on Friday, all at 109 and all at 170. Texas 13,200 head on Friday from few deals, little deals, 107, and then all the rest of them at 109. But gaining ground in fat cattle, it's not enough to really help your feeder cattle market because their major input, the feed you put into them, is going to be more expensive. And just when you get to this deep into October, your demand is always outweighed by supplies with all these big numbers of spring-born calves. Box beef cutout values. Your weighted average for last week's sales, choice cuts 216.04. That was down $2.06. So that we were able to gain ground on our box beef cutouts. That's wholesale beef through the end of September, which is never seen. But then usually it starts sometime in October gaining ground. But the first week of October didn't see that. Select cuts all of last week, the weighted average was 204.67. That weighted average was down $2.57 from the weighted average a week before. We are seeing a little bit wider spread in choice and select because the select is falling off faster and choice is hanging on there pretty good, especially later in the week. But choice select spread on the weighted average is $11.37. Pretty good movement of 745 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. And we hear that the out front sales of wholesale beef cuts are really good, but of course your end users are no longer hand to mouth like they were whenever we was in that panic buying. So your packers are able to hide a lot of that demand in out front sales. They don't have to really show that. That's a warning for you guys that think that we need box beef cutout value futures prices to be traded. But your slaughter for last week, 637,000, down 28,000 from the week before, because we had notable plant problems, especially the one big plant out east there had cooler problems. They ended up having to shut the whole thing down, even though they mostly slaughter cows and Holsteins and things like that, but they do also slaughter some regular steers and heifers, but it's pulling down. And then we had some places that had some other smaller problems, but the 637,000 last week was only 11,000 less than the same week a year ago. But I tell you what, I did notice on some reports last week, our beef imports, and I know most of us think that we need to get some labels on this beef and show these consumers that it is from the USA, and quit putting USA or things that make the consumers think that it's a USA product when it likely came from somewhere foreign and not just north and south. I wish they would come up with something that said North American beef. That way our two best customers, Canada and Mexico, wouldn't get hurt so bad. But we really should think twice about bringing product in from South America, Africa, places like that where, you know, that we know that there's foot and mouth disease outbreaks, spotty all around there, and we're going to end up bringing something in here if we don't quit fooling around with it. But I tell you what, our beef imports so far for the year are up 31%. That's largely due to the pandemic there, not being able to fill the shelves whenever we were shut down at our plants around here. But our South America imports are up 113% over last year, and I know that makes a lot of you guys a skin crawl, and it really should. But let's check in with Ellis and Carter and see what we could get some commodity calves shipped in to us. You know, I was out in Idaho all last week, but late in the week I was videoing some cattle in western Oklahoma. Did see a few places where there was some sprouts of wheat starting to show up. Now in the Texas Panhandle, you don't see that. We haven't had a drop of moisture in months and months and months, and I know it's dry everywhere, but there's a few places that could be worse. But there is some irrigation on this wheat, and sometimes if they irrigate it, they want to keep it just to harvest. But for the guys that really need it and they need a place to turn cattle out, that irrigation, it is starting to come along, and you might need some of these lightweight calves. And I'll just kind of give you an idea of what you could get some delivered to you for out of Central Texas, and that's out of Ellis and Carter Cattle Company there. He gave me the quotes on the cattle that he shipped on Sunday. He had steers and bulls, but these would be the good kind. I tell you what, be a large percent of them black and mostly all solid colored, and they'd sure be good enough to go anywhere. But a load averaged 307 pounds at 195 delivered. Load 403 pounds, 155 delivered. Load weighed 435 at 151 delivered. That's delivered, you know, to the Texas Panhandle, to Oklahoma, Kansas, places that typically get cattle out of Central Texas there. Load averaged 531 pounds at 136, 590 pounds at 131.50, and then he told me about a load of sure enough plain steers and bulls, and they would be colored up quite a bit. They'd have some leather on them. Some dewlap and sheath, and a lot of you wouldn't like them very good unless you got them in, straightened them up, kept most of them alive, and backgrounded and fed them, and then they would sell right along with all the other cattle, and they'd probably make pretty good money. But a load of those averaged 504 pounds at $110.50. Kind of sound worth the money. How about some heifers? These would be the better kind. Some 291 pounders on the average. Take a lot of them to make a load. $150 delivered. 355 pounds at 142. 438 pound heifers at 137 delivered. 483 pounders at 134 1/4, and some fancy 610 pound heifers delivered for 120.50. And then one set that was plain, kind of like those steers and bulls I was telling you about earlier, they weighed 552 and $112. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market for last week. Your real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 139.76. That was down $2.57 for the week. And I know that you guys think, man, that's sure tough on your feeder prices. But I tell you what, that's your index quote. Your yearling feeders were just kind of unevenly steady all week, no matter where you sold them. If they were true yearling feeders, some of them selling as good as they ever have. Some of them off that a little bit, but not bad, but unevenly steady. There's just a lot of big calves, big steer calves, that's sneaking into our index quotes because it's from 7 to 899 pounders. So it's going to pressure that, and those prices are going to come down. It was down $2.57 for the week, but just a typical October, guys. Your true yearling feeders, what's left of them, selling about steady. Feeder calves that are so big. Congratulations, guys. I've told you before, you've created something that nobody wants. A giant feeder calf that's too big to turn out, and of course it's too dry to turn anything out anyway, that has to go to the feedlot. They're cheaper everywhere, especially if they're fleshy. And the discounts on cattle, high-risk cattle that don't have 2 rounds of shots, have not been 45 days weaned. The discounts continue to go up, especially on a 6-weight fat heifer calf that hasn't had shots and is not weaned. I tell you what, they sell them down towards the end of the day, and they just get for nothing, guys. It's hard to watch, but that's the way it is. And it's way out west, too. I told you I was out in Idaho last week. It's no different than the central part of the U.S. There's just a bigger supply of them than there is people that want to fool with them. Lightweight peewee calves. There's good demand for those, but the market is cheaper on your lightweight peewees, strictly because there's just not as many places to turn them out. And so normally you'd see a big demand for guys wanting to buy wheat cattle to put together, but you know, with no better than what your prospects are for wheat, guys can't get too excited about it. How about one of your big sales late in the week, Crawford, Nebraska, 6,800 head there, big calf special, sold really good. Calves compared to a much lighter run the previous week were steady. Spots $5 lower because there's just such a big supply of them, and some of those peewee calves as much as $8 lower. But you look at this automated report from Crawford, Nebraska, from Cattle Market Central there through DV auction. You see the best tested weights of calves. Over 1,000 head of 4-weight steer calves average 458 at 174.06 on all those 4-weight steer calves. Almost 2,000 head of 5-weights in one sale barn there average 543 at 164.90. 686 head of the 4-weight heifers average 451 at 159.09. And 1,083 5-weight heifers average 539 at 148.84. Look at some high quotes out of a buddy of mine's sale at St. Ange, South Dakota. Justin Tupper there, he had a whale of a sale there on Friday, and sold yearlings and peewee calves high. Sold 68 head of 910-pound yearling steers at 145.50. That's about as high as they were all fall, guys, and late summer. And then 111 head of 359-pound peewee steers bring $2.11 a pound. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.